Hey everybody, welcome to the Conscious Love Show. Whether you are single, you are in a relationship, or you're healing a broken heart, this show is here to inspire you, to remind you how beautiful, lovable, and amazing you truly are, and to give you the practical tools and insights to navigate from wherever you are right now to the loving relationship that you so deeply want to have. My name is Shane Kohler. I'm a certified transformational coach and trainer with over a decade experience helping people release their trauma and open their hearts to love. I've delivered seminars all over the world, coached thousands of people through my online platforms and programs, and every week I'm coming straight to you with the hottest insights and the best teachers around, bringing you powerful resources and profound conversations to heal your relationship with love, dating, and yourself. I'm so grateful you're here, and if it's your first time, welcome. You can count on me to always show up for you with my very best and a commitment to learn and grow myself so I can serve you to my maximum ability. Thanks so much for tuning into the show. I've got some awesome things planned for you today. So without further ado, let's dive in. Hello, everybody. Hello. Welcome back to another episode of the Conscious Love Show podcast. Shane Kohler on with you today. As always, pleasure to dive in. Happy to be back. Looking forward to today's episode. Today, we're exploring the idea if he is worth the wait, or are you wasting your time with him? And this is for any of the ladies out there who have met somebody, there's a connection, there's feeling, there's emotion, perhaps you've even been physical together, perhaps you've even shared feelings of love, feelings of really wanting to be with each other. But no matter what you may have shared with him, there's one big caveat. And that big caveat is that he's not ready right now. And I see this a lot with the ladies I coach, and I know women do this too sometimes, but it seems like something men do, and maybe it's because of the emotional overwhelm they feel. Maybe it's because of the hesitance of making another big commitment, especially if they're just coming out of one. Or there are all different kinds of reasons that a man might say, I like you, I love you, I want to be with you, you're the perfect woman in every conceivable way. I'm just not ready for this right now. And so the question that we're addressing in today's episode is when you encounter a man like this, who maybe he's the perfect guy in every way, and he says you're the perfect woman in every way, and the two of you really, really want to be together in the perfect world when the time is right, but now is not that time. And the question is this worth waiting for, or is it wasting your time? And I want to just really dive into the heart of this conversation today, because this is perhaps one of the most painful dynamics that we encounter, especially if you've been out there dating and it feels like you don't make a lot of great connections, or finding a man like this is hard and they're not that common, they're not out there. And then finally you found the perfect person and he feels the same way about you. The only problem is he's not ready to move forward right now. And you might be asking yourself, should I just be patient? Should I just give him some time? Should I just let him get his things together? Because if I just wait until he's ready, this will be the perfect relationship. And so I want to name that starting out today. I want to name that pain, the ache of that longing, the seductive daydream of what if he just needs time and we could live happily ever after, right? And the reality that sometimes it feels noble, sometimes it feels romantic, but at the same time, it can also be a drain on your self-esteem, on your self-worth, on the idea of yourself, on your emotional reality. And so maybe you know he's not ready. Maybe you know he's not stepping up, but some part of you keeps watching for tiny little signs. Texts that mean maybe he's changing, moments where he's sweet, anything he says that makes you think that he might be coming around. Maybe you're stuck in the tension of knowing that he's not choosing you, but fearing that if you leave now, you'll miss the moment where he finally does. Or maybe deep down you feel the ache of uncertainty, knowing that it's unlikely he'll suddenly wake up and commit, but you're not ready to let go yet because you're still carrying this hope that he might. And maybe you catch yourself analyzing every word, every delay, every shift in mood, quietly negotiating with yourself to just stay a little bit longer because leaving just feels like giving up this possibility you've been clinging to. And you tell yourself that you're patient, you're understanding, that you're giving him space. But underneath, you're afraid that he'll never meet you. And deep down, there's a quiet fear that maybe you're wasting the best years of your life on someone who's never going to show up for you. So if you're in this position right now, I just want to acknowledge the reality of that. I want to acknowledge how scary it can be, how painful it can be, how it can feel to keep showing up for someone day after day after day, believing that it's going to lead to something, while maybe subtly underneath it all knowing that it's not going anywhere. And in today's episode, I want to discuss how you know what is worth hanging on to and how you know what is not worth hanging on to. And also, if you're hanging on to something that really is not worth you hanging on to it, the consequences that is going to lead to. Because I've seen so many women in this situation who waited for a man and waited for a man and waited for a man and made herself available and gave him the best of her, only when he was finally ready to have him choose someone else. And today I'm also going to talk about that and why that happens. But the first thing I want to really name today is that compatibility, a core factor of compatibility, is readiness. So this is one of the things that we've got to shift around this mindset. Not thinking I'm perfectly compatible with this person except they're not ready. And to start to think compatibility is part of readiness. If they're not ready, that makes us incompatible, right? Compatibility is not just about the right person. It's also about the right time. And you've got to give yourself permission to own that. You've got to give yourself permission to say that I need someone who is ready for me now. Not at some imaginary time in the future, but now, today. And yes, maybe they have circumstances. Maybe they're going through a divorce right now. Maybe they have big career shifts that they're going through, or work is really demanding, or maybe they're raising children and they don't know how to juggle children and all of that. And I get that. And I want to say, I'm not suggesting that these conditions are not real, that they don't matter, that he should just abandon his children or abandon his work and give you all of his attention. I'm not saying that. But I'm saying if he's not in a place where he can balance both, then he's not ready for the kind of relationship that you want to have, and he's not compatible for that kind of relationship. Yes, he might have things that he needs to work out. Maybe he needs to handle his separation or his divorce. Maybe he just really needs to throw himself into raising his children and he doesn't have time for anything else right now. I get that. That's valid. That doesn't make him a narcissist. That doesn't make him abusive. That doesn't make him manipulative. But it does make him incompatible. And this is maybe even human nature, but it's something worth naming here. Is that if you make yourself available to him and he genuinely likes you and he genuinely enjoys your company and he's made it clear that he's not ready for more right now, but you keep yourself around, allowing him access to you, hoping that one day he'll be ready, that's not leading to a committed, long-term, devoted partnership. And what's going to happen is he's going to use you for the benefits that you offer him now without any dedication to what that means for the future. And I want to say this, that doesn't make him a bad person. That's human nature. He's going to absorb the attention, the validation, the companionship, the enjoyment of being together, of spending time together, of having your attention. He's going to enjoy that when he can, when he's available for it, because you're offering it freely to him. And he's made it clear, I'm not available for more than this. And if you're waiting around for something more from him, hoping that just being endlessly available shows him how wonderful you are, and will have him commit at the right time, I'm going to be very direct when I say this. That's not his bad. That's yours. if he's been honest with you about what he can offer and you give him more anyway, hoping that it will lead to something more down the road, that's not his bad. That's you not listening to what he's saying. That's you hoping that you can control the situation into becoming something that it's not right now. And I say this with a lot of love and a lot of compassion because I've been there and I know what that feels like. But that's only going to hurt you in the long run. So let's touch on you wanting to excuse the lack of compatibility. Let's touch on you wanting to excuse the fact that he's not ready. Because underneath this excuse is a wound that you're carrying. And there's something really, really important here, because I want to say this, when we really understand our value, when we really understand, like, I know that I am such a gift in someone's life. I know that I offer so much. I know that it is literally a privilege to have me in your life. And that's not arrogance. That's not narcissism. That's not being full of yourself. That is just a simple statement of truth. It's actually humility. Because humility doesn't mean that I humble myself to an unworthy degree. Humility means I state what is as it is. My ego is not overinflated, but it's also not underinflated. Right? So I can be truly humble and say, I know who I am. I know what I offer. I know that I give so much, and I know that I am worthy of someone who is ready to give me the same in return. That's actually a truly humble place to stand. You're not unnecessarily devaluing yourself, and you're not overvaluing yourself. You're just simply stating what is. And when you are connected to your worth on that level, there's just something fundamental that happens where you stop excusing someone else's lack of readiness. And you don't have to go, oh my God, they're such an asshole. I can't believe they did this and blah, blah, blah. You don't have to do all of that. You just simply say, you're wonderful. If this connection had happened at another place and another time, we might have been perfect for each other. But given the fact that I can't expect or trust you to be all in with this right now, it's not something I can continue to devote my energy to, because I know that I deserve a relationship that is reciprocal. So you're not hating the person, you're not judging them, you're not criticizing them, you're not saying, oh, why aren't they ready? Why are they making excuses? But you're also not making excuses for them. So the question I want to pose, if you're in this situation and you're making excuses for someone, the question I want to pose to you is, what is underneath that excuse? What is the fear that is operating underneath that excuse? Is it a fear of starting over again? Is it a fear that you've been trying for so long and you've never met anyone and this is the closest thing you found, and if you let this go, you feel you'll never find it again? Is it a deep fear that nobody will ever truly choose you or ever truly be devoted to you? Maybe there's a fear that you're not worthy of a relationship unless it requires this much work of you. So this is often a very core wound that so many of us carry from a very young age, is we feel like we have to earn love. So a lot of times, if we feel like we have to earn love, like I'm not inherently worthy of it because of who I am, but it's something I have to work for, it's something I have to earn, like my presence alone is not enough. It has to be my presence plus everything I do on top of it. When we carry that belief about ourselves or that identity, what we'll often do is plug ourselves into a situation like this, where we say, okay, I have to earn love. I'm not inherently worthy of love. So I'm going to plug myself into a situation where somebody's not ready for me. And then I'm going to spend months or years working to show them how worthy I am. And if I do, they'll eventually love me. And that can simply be you playing out the blueprint that says, I have to earn love, that I'm not just inherently worthy of it. So what is that? What's your justification for making the excuse? Not the surface justification of, oh, well, he's busy and I'm compassionate and I'm empathetic and I'm understanding, so I know what he's going through and I want to give him time and I want to be there for him. That's the ego cover. That's the part of you that boosts yourself up with how understanding and how patient and how generous and how evolved you are. But it can't really be about being generous and patient and understanding and evolved if at the same time it's chipping away at your worthiness. That's the catch here. That's the rub. You can't really be generous and evolved if you're at the same time devaluing yourself and chipping away at your own worthiness. And this is where you've got to be really, really honest. Does this situation make you feel undervalued? Does this situation reinforce the fear, the doubt, the feeling that you're not worthy, the programming that you have to work to earn love? And if it does, that's one of the clearest ways you can know that this is not worth waiting for. Because no situation, let me put it this way, you should never choose a situation that devalues you. There's no real justification for that. Every relationship of your life, every choice you make on some level should be increasing your sense of worthiness. And if you consistently make choices that do that, then you will consistently feel more and more whole, more and more worthy. You will ask for more and more from life. Maybe there's a feeling keeping you stuck here that I've already invested so much time and energy and emotion. Walking away feels like losing everything. But the reverse is also true. Just the fact that you've already wasted so much time with this person doesn't justify staying, because if you continue spending time with them, you're just going to waste more time. So that's not really a good justification. And underneath that are all these same fears, all these same beliefs I've been talking about. I want to touch on the shadow aspect of this too. And this is something that may be hard for some people to name. But if you see this in yourself and you can own it, that's really, really powerful, because this is where your freedom lies. So I want to talk about the manipulation of misplaced loyalty. Trying to manipulate what you want from someone by proving your loyalty, by proving your devotion. And sometimes when we do this, what ends up happening is we end up saying, okay, they're not ready for me now, but I'm going to give them so much that they feel indebted to me. I'm going to give them so much that they feel like they can't leave me. And so this isn't really love. This isn't really generosity. This isn't even devotion or loyalty. It's control. It's manipulation. And it's creating a debt that we intend to collect on later. So basically what you say is, well, they're not ready for me now, but I'm going to give them everything. I'm going to be devoted. I'm going to be loyal. I'm going to prove myself. I'm going to show them how worthy I am and how much I love them and how dedicated I am to them. And when they are finally ready, they'll look back on everything I've done. And they'll feel obligated to choose me. And maybe we romanticize it a little bit. Maybe we make it a little sexier, right? Maybe we don't say they'll feel obligated. Maybe we say they'll love me for everything I've done. But no matter how we dress it up, it's the same thing. It's the idea of manipulating a commitment through what we do, through what we give, rather than standing in, I'm worthy of being chosen for who I am. We often don't think of that as manipulative. Often what happens is we give and give and give and give and give, and we unconsciously expect to receive something in return. And then after we've given to someone for years and they end up choosing someone else, or they end up ending the connection altogether, we say, how could they? After everything I did, after everything I gave them. But if you walk away feeling like that, if you walk away feeling like, how could they after everything I gave, then this is what I need to name for you. You might hate me for doing it. That wasn't really a gift. You weren't really giving them anything. Your giving had conditions. Your giving had expectations attached to it. You weren't giving from love. You weren't giving from generosity. You were giving to incur a debt that you later expected to collect on. And I know maybe this wasn't done consciously. It's not like you were a mastermind with a master plan sitting back orchestrating all of this. It was done unconsciously. It was done from survival. But it doesn't change that it was done. And it doesn't have any less of a real impact on the relationship. And it's so important to understand that. So it's important that we show up to these things clean. It's important that we cut all these little games, all these little manipulations out of the equation. And I want to offer you this. Maybe this person is in your life right now. Maybe you're waiting for this person so that you can illuminate these parts of yourself and make a new choice about them. That's important sometimes. Sometimes we need to illuminate the way in which these things are operating within ourselves so we can make a new choice. So if you say, I see that I've been giving and giving and giving and hoping one day it's all going to be returned to me. And now that I'm seeing this, I'm kind of like, ooh, gross. I don't like that about myself. I know that moment of going, ooh, gross. I don't like that about myself can be uncomfortable. But don't be ashamed about it. I want you to recognize how human it is. I want you to recognize that it doesn't make you an evil person with a master plan to control and manipulate people to your whims. It comes from fear. It comes from survival. It comes from the feeling of being left out, the feeling of not belonging, the feeling of wanting to secure your place in the world. And sometimes that need, which is a fundamental human need, can become so desperate that we'll do almost anything to get it. And it doesn't make you a bad person for having that. It doesn't make you inherently manipulative, but we all have our little manipulations. But this is what we need to recognize, and this is the message for today. Our manipulations only truly hurt us. Because at the end of the day, if it wasn't love, then it wasn't love. And no matter how much you tried to control or manipulate it into becoming love, you can't change what it is fundamentally. If you weren't chosen, you weren't chosen. And no matter how much you might have tried to control or manipulate someone's choice, if they don't choose you authentically, you can't change that. And at the end of the day, the only person who is truly hurt through these little survival strategies is ourselves. The other person benefited from our presence, our time, our attention, our energy, our investment. And then when they were done with it, they let it go. It didn't hurt them. It hurts us. You've also got to recognize something really important here. That every interaction you have with someone, the choices you make or don't make, the things you're willing to accept or not accept, the things you stay for, the things you walk away from, every single choice you make in relationship with someone is communicating who you believe you are and the value that you believe you hold. So if someone says, I'm not ready, I have to wait for my divorce. I have to wait till I grow my business. I have to wait till I complete this transition at work, whatever it might be. But if somebody says, I'm not ready, and you say, that's fine, I'll wait, you are telling that person who you believe you are. You are telling that person what you believe you're worth, what you believe you deserve. And I'm going to say this just very bluntly. You're not painting a compelling picture of yourself. This person may, when they met you, have thought you were the cat's meow. This person may have, when they met you, thought you were the most incredible person they'd ever met. But when they see you put your life on hold, when they see you put your dreams, your desires, your needs below theirs, they cannot help but devalue you on some level in their own mind. And you might say, well, a good, honest, sincere person would never devalue someone like that. That's not true. It doesn't mean they devalue you as a human being, but they devalue you as a partner. Because every single one of us wants to be with someone worthy. Every single one of us wants to be with someone who knows their own worth. And when we see someone do this, when we see someone subordinate their dreams, their desires, their needs below ours, which, by the way, is what you're doing, right? When somebody says, I'm not ready, and you say, I'll wait, what you're doing essentially is you're saying, your situation, your circumstances, your needs are more important than mine. So I'm going to put mine on hold. I'm going to wait and not have mine met right now so I can accommodate to yours. There's an inherent imbalance in that relationship. There's an inherent lack of reciprocity in that relationship. And this is the relational intelligence that we need to develop in these kinds of situations when we allow and even encourage a lack of reciprocity like that. What we subtly communicate is that my dreams, my desires, my needs are not as valid as yours. I'm going to put my needs on hold in order to make sure that your needs are met. And when we see that from someone, it doesn't matter how much we like them. It doesn't matter how much we think they're a great person. And again, I'm not saying that we would devalue them as a human being. But there's something in us that says, this isn't the kind of partner I want. They might be a beautiful person. They might be smart. They might be funny. They might have a lot of great qualities. But this isn't the kind of partner I want. Because fundamentally, we want someone who knows what they are worth and who claims it. And I want to say this too, because this is a really important part of this conversation. It's not about your actual worth. It's not about what you actually offer. It's about your perceived worth. Because let me say this, I believe all human beings are equally worthy. We are all gifted, we are all brilliant, we are all beautiful, we are all magical in our own unique, special ways. And every single person has something very unique and special and beautiful to bring to the world. And that's equal across the board. Now, it's more developed in some people than others. That's worth naming. Some people it's very, very underdeveloped. Some people it's highly, highly developed. But regardless of the degree to which that's developed, it's present in all of us. And we want someone who recognizes that inside of themselves and owns that. That's what we want in a partner. Putting your life on hold to wait for someone else to be ready for you is literally not owning it. It's literally putting yourself last and them first. Now, in a reciprocal relationship, there are going to be times where you put them first and yourself last. But that can't be the entire nature of the relationship, right? There are absolutely times when I recognize what my wife needs and I put my needs on hold to make sure she gets them met. You know, my wife expressed something to me very early on in our relationship. She said, it's important for us to have dinner together. You know, if you're away at a seminar or if, you know, there's something happening, we don't have to have dinner together every single night. But when we're home or even when we were dating and we were in the same place, like she's like, I want to have dinner together. That means something to me. Now, for me, I could easily go on working for the next, 3 hours and eat dinner at 9:30 at night. Like that would be fine for me. But dinner means something to her. And so every night around 6 o'clock, I put my needs on hold to go show up and have dinner with her. But she reciprocates that in so many ways in our relationship. So it's a practice of meeting each other's needs. And that is reciprocated in our relationship. So the nature of our relationship is not one person putting their needs on hold to accommodate the other person. It's that we tend to each other's needs and we tend to our own. And there's reciprocity in that. There's a constant flow of giving and receiving in the way we show up in our relationship with each other. When we recognize our value, when we recognize how much we actually bring to someone's life, what a privilege it is for someone to have me existing in their space, for someone to get to spend their time with me, for someone to get my love, my devotion, my attention, my effort, my energy. When we recognize how much that is truly worth, reciprocity becomes a requirement. Because the truth is, I could be sharing all of that with anyone, anywhere, even if it wasn't romantic. I could be sharing it with my friends, my family. I could be giving 100% of it to myself. So if I'm going to let you absorb a significant portion of my energy, that needs to be reciprocated. This is the language of love. Let me put it this way. When I love myself, I understand that my energy needs to be reciprocated. It's like, let's say you are an expert in some field. Let's say you were a master of your craft, whatever your craft might be. Many of you are masters of your craft, so you know exactly what I'm talking about. Maybe you're a surgeon or a lawyer, or maybe you're a consultant, or maybe you do something, but you're a master of your craft. It would be like being a master of your craft and getting paid $10 an hour. Right? It's not that I'm too good to get paid $10 an hour. It's not that I'm better than that. It's not arrogance. There's actually a humility in recognizing I am this good at my craft that I deserve to be compensated for it appropriately. I bring this much value that I deserve the value that I bring to be reciprocated. That's not arrogance. That's not entitlement. That is self-love. In the same way that I want to love you, I want to be there for you, I want to be devoted to you, I want to show up for you, I want to give you the world. In the same way that I want that for you, I also want that for myself because it's the same love. You see, if you are loving someone else without also loving yourself to the same degree, I hate to say it, that's not love. That's fear, that's manipulation, that's control, that's survival. To put it in context of this conversation, if I show up to someone and they say, I'm just not ready for you, you're amazing, you're wonderful, I care about you, you're a beautiful person, but I'm just not ready for you. My self-love would have a problem with that. And here's this beautiful reciprocity. I love myself enough to not endlessly pour myself into something that doesn't reciprocate me. But I also love you enough to let you have what you're asking for. If you say you don't have time for me, if you say you're not available for me, I'm not going to try to weasel my way in there and convince you otherwise. I'm not going to try to supersede your own wishes for yourself, because that's actually being a fucking taker. When someone tells me what they want, I think I know better what they should want than they do, and I try to weasel my way in and manipulate into something they specifically said they don't want or they're not available for. That's not being a giver, that's being a taker. We just make ourselves feel better about it by giving so much while we're trying to take. But the truth is, love does not respond that way. Love says, I love myself enough to not allow this. And I love you enough to let you have exactly what you say you want. To let you have exactly what you're asking for. If you want to lose me, and losing me is not having time to show up for me fully, not being available for me in the way that I need you. So if you want to lose me, I give you the dignity of losing me. And I want to name actually a dynamic here that I see happen quite often with men and women I coach. Because sometimes when a man says, I'm just not ready right now, he's testing you. He's testing you to see what you'll tolerate. And I know, like, a lot of women get upset when I say that. Like, oh, how disgusting that he would test me like that. Well, let's just call it out. Women do it too. We test people in different ways. Let me try crossing this boundary and see how they'll respond. Right? Let me just push the limit here a little bit just to see what they do. Will they name it? Will they put me in my place, or will they let me walk all over them? And again, I'm not saying he's masterminding the whole situation. Like, I'm going to say I'm not ready and I'm going to test her. No, it's a lot of the testing we do is completely unconscious. I'll give an example of this real quick. I was just reflecting on this the other night. So the first time I smoked weed, I was 13 years old, and I was with my Uncle Jason, and it was just me and him. I had stayed the night at his house, and he was smoking a joint, which at that time my dad smoked weed, and smoking weed was common, but I had never done it. And my Uncle Jason was smoking a joint, and he says, do you want to try it? And nobody had ever offered it to me. You know, as far as my dad was concerned, it was forbidden. It was something I couldn't try, but now he was offering it to me, and I was surprised. And I was nervous. I didn't know. I wanted to, but I didn't. Was it right? Was it wrong? Was it good? Was it bad? I don't know. Right? So I was caught up. And I remember I said maybe, and he handed it to me, and I sat there and I held the joint. And as I was holding the joint, I was sitting in my indecision about whether I wanted to smoke it or not, and I was just letting it burn down. And again, I was 13. This was completely unconscious. But I was reflecting on this the other night, and I thought back to that, and I said, I was testing my uncle. Because I wanted to see who I was dealing with in that moment. And when I sat there and let the joint burn down, while I was contemplating whether or not I should hit it, I was testing to see if he would make my experience more important than the joint burning down. Or if he would make the joint burning down more important than the experience I was having in crossing this major threshold in my life. Now, maybe it's not the healthiest example, but it's interesting, like little 13-year-old me, I wasn't masterminding this. It was instinctual. But I wanted to know who I was dealing with. In a sense, I wanted to know if the environment that I was in was safe enough for me to trust him with crossing that threshold. I wasn't aware of it. I didn't consciously know what I was doing. It was instinctual. But we do those things in relationships in these same kinds of micro ways. We test people because we want to know who we're dealing with. And I'm not saying this happens 100% of the time, but I'm saying it happens often. When a man says, I'm not ready for you right now, it's a test. And he's testing because he wants to know who he's dealing with. He wants to know, how much does this person really value herself? And he might not even have the awareness to know that's what he's doing. I want to be clear. I'm not saying he's playing a manipulative game. I'm saying it's completely unconscious. He may not even be aware of what he's doing. This is primal. This is instinctual. But we do this in relationships with each other. We test the people around us to find out who they are. And on some level, he may want to know, when I say I'm not ready, is she going to prioritize my needs above hers? Is she going to put her life and her dreams and her desires on hold, waiting for me to be ready? Or is she going to own her dreams, own her needs, own her desires, step fully into them, and let me go? And I can't tell you how often I've seen this. I've said this before. It's about a 50-50 chance, and I'd stand by that. I think 50% of the time, when a man says he's not ready, and a woman says, I'm sorry to hear that. I really liked you. We've had a lot of fun together. It's been wonderful getting to know you. I thought this could go somewhere. It's a shame that you're not ready for it, because this could have been something truly amazing. I wish you the best. I wish you well. I hope you figure things out. If you change your mind, give me a call. And she walks away. Now what she's doing is she is letting him feel her absence. She is letting him feel the loss. This is where he actually connects to how much she's worth. Because he was enjoying her presence, now it's gone. Instead of saying, I'm not ready, and she leans in more and gives him more, and he never has the opportunity to experience her absence, to feel the loss, he just keeps getting what he wants. There's no motivation for him to get ready. There's no motivation for him to sort his shit out and say, you know what, maybe I can do this. But when he feels that loss, when he was basking in the experience of her presence and her energy and the companionship and the connection that was between them, and then suddenly it's taken away, he starts rethinking his whole situation. Maybe I could be ready. Maybe I'm more ready than I thought I was. You know, what's really holding me back? Is it time? Maybe I do have the time. You know, maybe I can figure out a creative way to show up for my kids and still have a relationship. Maybe there were some uncomfortable things he was avoiding, like a conversation with his ex-wife or a conversation with his kids or creating some boundaries at work or right. Maybe there was something in his life that he was avoiding, and the absence and the loss now motivates him to face that thing that he was afraid to face. So 50% of the time, A few days later or a week later, you get a phone call. And he says, you know what? I've been thinking a lot about what you said, and I think I could be ready. I think I do want more. Now, the other 50% of the time, he doesn't. And maybe in those circumstances, he just literally was not available for more. Maybe in those circumstances, his life situation was truly, authentically so overwhelming he didn't have any bandwidth. Or maybe, hate to say it, but this could be true as well, maybe he just wasn't that into you. He just wasn't that into the connection. But either way, you always win when you choose yourself. It's always a win. And this is maybe the most heartbreaking part of the whole thing that I really want to touch on here. Because I've seen this happen to so many women. A man will say he's not ready. And they'll say, well, maybe we can just be friends. Or maybe we can just be friends with benefits. Or maybe we can just keep this connection alive and see where things are when you are ready. And there are all different kinds of justifications. Maybe she'll try to make herself small. I promise I'm not going to disturb your life. I'm not going to disrupt your schedule. I'm not going to take up any significant space here. I'm just going to be available for when you want me and ready for when you need me. But here's the heartbreaking part about all of it. This man, 95% of the time, when he is ready, he will end it with her and he will end up with someone else. And this is maybe even the most maddening part about it, is the other person he ends up with often will even have less to offer than you did. But going back to what I said earlier, it's not about actual worth, it's about perceived worth. And the fact is that he watched you put your life on hold, prioritize his needs above your own, and that devalued the way he saw you. And this new person he ends up with, she didn't do that. Now, maybe if she had met him when you met him, she would have. I don't know, right? Like that's possible. But again, it's not about actual truth. It's about perceived truth. And so many women get caught up in this. They say, what the hell does she have that I didn't have? When I gave him my best and I showed up for him and we have all this history and all this time that I've invested with him, how could she just show up and win him over so easily? And it's not that she had more than you, it's actually that she had less. The lack of history allowed him to see her in a new, fresh light. It allowed him to project onto her the idea of a partner that he was looking for. But that died with you the moment you made his needs more important than your own. And going back to something I said earlier, he may like you as a human being. He may enjoy your company. He may think you're a wonderful person. And because of all that, he will continue to enjoy your company if you allow him to. But allowing him to changes the way he perceives you. And, I can already hear the feedback on this, and a lot of people are going to say, well, that's just toxic, that's just manipulative, that's just shallow. Maybe it is to a degree, but it's also human nature. Going back to something I said, we all want a high value partner. Nobody wakes up in the morning and says, I want to end up with someone who's low value. And if we do end up with someone low value, it's usually by accident, not because it's what we would have had in our ideal life. And this is the painful part. Sometimes people who have a lot of value present themselves as lower value through not having clear standards, through not having clear boundaries. So I want to just touch on a couple more things here. I want to address when waiting is appropriate, because maybe there are life circumstances that we can be patient about. Maybe there are situations where waiting is valid. And so I want to bring it back to the principle that I've been speaking about throughout this entire episode, and that principle is reciprocity. The willingness to reciprocate the effort, the energy, the investment, the time that you put into it. Now, reciprocity doesn't have to be a perfect one-on-one reflection, right? And when we start to get tit for tat like that, that's not love either. That's control. That's something else entirely. So I'm not talking about tit for tat. I'm talking about an energetic reciprocity. So it doesn't mean that if I pay for dinner one night, you pay for dinner the next night, and we always have to alternate. No, someone may pay for dinner every time. And the other person may reciprocate that in different ways. So it's not that it has to be a perfect one-to-one reflection on everything, but there's a feeling you get. There's a feeling of safety and security and solidity in that I feel and I can see that what I put into this relationship is being returned to me. Not in a dollar amount, not in an hour amount, but in an energetic amount. One of the greatest examples of this was when my wife and I started dating. And I've shared this story many times on the podcast that we were long distance for 3 years, right? So for the first 3 years we were together, we had to take a plane to see each other every single time. And because her schedule was a little more confined than mine, I had a little more flexibility. I was a coach. I was in trainings, but my trainings were on the weekends and they weren't all the time. So she ended up working it out to where she could take 10 days every month to be in Florida with me. And that's what she was able to orchestrate with her job, with her commitments, with her life. She could take 10 days every month to be away and be in Florida with me. And she was able to work remotely, and I set up a space in my house for her to be able to work and have her office space. My schedule was a little more flexible. So sometimes I would go be with her for 2 weeks or 3 weeks at a time. And sometimes there would be months where I couldn't be there at all if I had a training every single weekend. But because of the differences of our lives, we didn't have exactly one-to-one reflections in terms of reciprocity. We did what we could, but on both sides there was a full energetic investment. Now, either one of us could have said, I can't make it. My work commitments don't allow me to. Financially, it's tough. I can't be buying all these plane tickets. Yada, 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 on and on and on. Either one of us could have given reasons that we couldn't have had this relationship work. And if we had, that wouldn't have been wrong, right? If my wife had said, listen, I just can't consistently spend time in Florida. It doesn't work with my work schedule. It doesn't work with my commitments. If you want this relationship, you're going to have to spend all your time in New Jersey. Well, she would have been within her right to say that. And I also would have been within my right to say, I don't think that's fair. Now, if she said, I can't do 10 days, I can do 5 days, and that was true for her, then maybe that would have been acceptable, right? But there would have been some reciprocity there. And I would have been able to feel if the energy was equal on both sides. Now, if someone's going through a divorce, if someone's navigating raising kids, if someone is navigating a work transition, if someone's going through a period of time where they say, listen, I'm on this big project for the next 6 months. It's going to require incredible amounts of time and energy. I would love to be more available, and I'm just not. You could ask a question and say, well, what are you available for? I think this relationship is worth it. I'd like to make it work. What are you available for? Tell me. And maybe they say, you know what? I can do every other weekend. And for these next 6 months, I will make myself available for you every other weekend. And if you can be patient with me through this time, when this project is over and I have more freedom and maybe more finances and things like that, we're going to spend a lot more time together. That might be something worth being patient about. Because they're not saying I'm not ready. They're not saying I'm not available. They're saying I am ready. I am available. And I have real life circumstances that I need to work around. And I'm willing to work around them. I would love to give you more time. I just can't right now. But here's what I can give you. And I can promise that that's your time. And when more becomes available, I'll give you more. There needs to be consistent effort, communication, a plan, also future building. Now, maybe this doesn't happen in the first couple of months, but if you're getting into 6 months and beyond, there should be future building. If you want to be married, if you want to live together, if you want to have a family, those conversations are on the table. And everything that you're doing today is a part of that long-term vision. If you're waiting with someone who says, I don't know what I want, I can't make any promises, I don't really know where this is going, let's just wait and see. Your waiting is wasted. Last thing I want to touch on here is the difference between being connected to your worth, your value, the honest gift that you are to a relationship, and playing games. Because a lot of what I'm talking about here can be manipulative if it's not done consciously. And that's something that I really think is worth naming. You don't walk away as a manipulative game to try to pull his energy towards you. This isn't playing hard to get. It's not threatening to walk out to make them do whatever you want them to do. And the biggest difference is that one has an external focus. How can I control their actions? How can I make them do what I want them to do? The other has an internal focus. The other isn't about getting them to do anything. It's about honoring the truth that's in you. So I don't walk away to try to manipulate the energy and pull you towards me and boost my ego with, oh, now you're chasing me. I walk away because I have a need. I know what that is. I'm honoring that. I have a dream. I have a vision. I have a desire for a relationship. I know what that looks like. I know what that feels like. I know that I'm worthy of that. I know that I deserve a partner who wants to build and create that with me. And if I feel that's not here, I walk away. I don't do it to manipulate. I don't do it to control. I don't do it to pressure. I don't do it to extract. It's an act of love. Going back to something I said earlier, I love myself enough to give myself the opportunity to have what I want. And I love you enough to make sure you get what you say you want. And if me standing in my truth magnetizes something out of you, if me standing in my truth makes you second guess your decision and you come back saying, you know what, I've been thinking about it. I don't want to lose you. I want to try to make this work. I'll consider that. I'll consider that and I'll ask myself, has this person shown me enough in our time together that I want to give this another chance? Now that they've changed their mind, have they demonstrated enough that I'd be willing to change mine? At least enough for a second chance. Sometimes you might say yes, sometimes you might say no. But this isn't about playing a game, it's about leading with your truth. So as I wrap this up, I just want to name a few things. When you're connected to your worth, you know that you deserve a relationship that is reciprocal. That's maybe the most important thing. And that could apply to someone who's not ready because of life, commitments, and other things. It could apply to many situations. But when you know your worth, you know that you're deserving of reciprocity. Also, and this is maybe one of the most important takeaways from today's conversation, placing someone else's needs above your own. Not in a one-time situation like I put my work needs on hold to go sit down and have dinner with my wife, but as the overarching context of the relationship, when a whole relationship becomes about meeting someone else's needs rather than your own, you're off. You've lost your way. And not only have you lost your own way, but you are actively participating in the relationship in a way that reduces your value in the other person's eyes. And that doesn't make them toxic. It doesn't make them disgusting. It makes them human. It means they have the same desire for a high-value partner that you do. When you place yourself in this dynamic, when you think that your loyalty and your devotion is going to incur a debt that will be paid back to you later, you're not being loving. You're not being loyal. You're not being devoted. You're being manipulative. And the only person that's going to hurt is you. Because when they are ready, they're not going to choose the person that they feel obligated to. That's going to be a heavy burden. Nobody wants to feel that. They're going to choose the person they feel attracted to. Underneath all of this is the simple principle of being connected to your value, being connected to your truth, knowing your dream, your vision, your desire, believing it's possible, believing you can have that, asking for it from the world, from the people that you interact with. When you're in a relationship with someone, you are asking for what you want from them. And you're not diminishing that. You're not toning that down. You're not pretending it's something other than what it is. You're not pretending you're okay with something that it's not. And when it's clear that this person can't offer you that, it doesn't make them a bad person. It doesn't mean you love them any less. It just means that you love yourself enough to give yourself the opportunity to have the things that you want in life. So thank you for being with me in today's conversation, everyone. This is a great one. I know it's so common, it's so seductive, right? The idea, if I just give a little more time, if I just wait a little longer, maybe they'll be ready. Maybe all the effort and all the investment that I put into this will finally pay off. But it's not clean that way. And when you're honest, you'll know it doesn't feel good to be in that relationship, and you don't feel good about yourself, allowing yourself to be in that relationship. And maybe that's the essence of this. Before we draw in the perfect partner, maybe the first lesson we need to learn is being that perfect partner to ourselves. Maybe the first lesson we need to learn is to only make choices that reinforce and increase my sense of personal worth. Maybe the loving, devoted partnership that we want to have is something that shows up as a reflection of being that person to myself. And as long as I'm making decisions that compromise my sense of self and my sense of worthiness, I can't really receive that partnership. So I'd like you to give these thoughts some reflections today. If you're in this situation, or if you've been in this situation in the past, notice what you're doing, why you're doing it. Have the courage to name the underlying motivations that are driving you. And find it in your heart to love yourself enough to choose you first. That's not selfish, because you're the only person in the world who can do that. Nobody will ever choose you for you. You've got to choose yourself first. So love and blessings, everybody. Thank you for being here with me. I'll see you back here next week. Have a great one until then. Take care. Bye. Thanks again for checking out the show. Please subscribe on whatever platform you listen to podcasts on the most. And I would love it so much if you leave a review and tell people what you think of us. Don't forget to follow us on Instagram @TheLivingRelationship to connect more closely. And I'm grateful to be supporting you on your journey to love.